Christmas presents are exciting. Do you remember what you'd say is the best gift you've ever received at Christmas? I asked my kids this question, and here's what they said. My 6-year-old loved her little talkie doll that could talk, blink, and not much else. Cost a whopping $110 after tax, and it lasted for a solid 8 months before it found its way to the back of her closet. My 9-year-old said his favorite was the popular fantasy book series, 6 books in all, each getting progressively longer. The set cost $58 and lasted 8 weeks before it lived its final dust-filled existence on a shelf. Now, my tween loved the Brainy Putty collection that cost $32 and lasted a measly 8 days before it went to live in our carpet. Finally, my teenage son wanted the ultimate drone with a 4K camera. It cost the most and lasted the shortest amount of time. I'd like to say it lasted 8 minutes, but no, it was 8 seconds, which is only impressive in bull riding. As exciting as those gifts are, what if there was a gift at Christmas that was far better? In fact, so much better that it makes these look like, well, toys. What if this gift was worth so much that no one could buy it for you, nor could you afford it? What if it was something of extreme value, like, say, life itself? And what if this gift was given through the birth of a baby who became our paid in full? That's the gift offered to all. It costs us nothing, him everything. It lasts just a bit longer than 8 seconds, 8 days, 8 weeks, or even 8 months. It lasts forever.
Good evening once again. Probably, well, I know that probably none of you have been with us for 37 times, but some of you have been with us a number of times. Even these guys over here. And it's not been too many for me. So, welcome to the 7th time we try to get it right. It's one of those things, you know. No matter how you try, there are so many little things, and it's good to go with the flow. So people have asked about bulletins. Yes, normally you've had a bulletin, even though during the service you can't read it. But I've generally provided a bulletin, which is a nice thing for me to do, don't you think? Well, I couldn't find the electronic file on the computer from last year. I think Charles Fillmore borrowed it. And then every time I tried to resize the picture that I was going to put on the front cover, it said it was the right size, and I put it on the front cover, and it took up one little part of the corner. So, you know, insanity, you do the same thing over and over, getting the same result. I did that 4 times. And then I said, well, you can't read it anyway. So everything is going to be on the screen. And tonight's a night of feeling. Let yourself be open, receptive, and responsive to this service. We're not just going to hit up here with facts and history. We're going to go after the heart. So watch out. Because this year, it's the inner meaning of Christmas. Christmas from inside instead of outside. So later on, when we trust you with live fire, and you have to walk around the room with it without any rehearsal at all, be aware of the candles, you know. I've seen a few times where I wondered about that fur that was in front of the, or one of the children going to set their parents on fire. Could have been on purpose, I don't know. But in order to begin tonight, you have to help me do something. We have been in this season that's called Advent. First Sunday of Advent, we lit this candle right over here. A lot of the world lit that candle for hope. Well, I believe hope is one of those things where if you loan money to a friend, you hope you get it back. But faith is a whole different quality. Faith, as Charles Fillmore said, the perceiving power of the mind linked with the power to shape substance. It's the ability to see the presence of something without holding it in your hand, without being from Missouri. Isn't that? I'll believe it when I see it. You'll see it when you believe it. So we lit the candle for faith. The second candle below it, we lit it the next Sunday for peace. When you have faith in God, you have faith in God in you, something happens. You find yourself in a peaceful state of consciousness. When you have faith in God and God in you, what's the problem out in the world? Greater is He that is in me than he that is in the world. Greater is He that is in you than anything you face in the world. And with that peace comes the third candle, the only pink one. But it's for love, which comes out of that peace. You begin to feel that pure, radiant love of God. Mary is a symbol of that love. And Mary represents what brings forth that divine child in you. That loving, supportive, nurturing aspect of your soul that allows that divinity within you to come forth. And what's the result of that? Joy, which is the candle we light tonight. And our affirmation for joy is, the Holy Child of Bethlehem within me fills my mind and heart with the profound joy of Christmas. Let us join in affirming this truth. Together, the Holy Child of Bethlehem within me fills my mind and heart with the profound joy of Christmas. Profound joy. And true joy has to come through you, not outside and put in, but from within out. The joy of the experience of that divine radiant presence in you. Christ in you. Your assurance of glory. Let's all rise. Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let earth receive her King. Let every heart prepare its room, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing. Joy to the world, the Savior reigns. Let You may be seated. And now we enter a more formal part of the service. I wrote this section just a few years ago. It paraphrases some of the beginning of John, where he talks about the light that cometh into the world. So as we move through this Christ Light Responsive Service, when I read the minister part, immediately follow with the response. Fiat lux, let there be light. And there was light. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. The true light that enlightens everyone who comes into the world. To all who are receptive to the light and believe in its inner presence, we receive the power to live fully as children of God. Born not of physicality, nor of the will of men, but of God. Lumen Christi. Light of Christ, the light within me. Christ within you is the light of the world. Christ within you is the way and the truth and the life. I am the way, the truth, and the life. Christ within you is the bread of life. I am the bread of life. From the center of your being radiates the life, wisdom, and intelligence of Christ. It is for you to remember and call upon it. No one and no thing can extinguish the eternal light within. Only I can be the light by forgetting my true nature. Remember and be saved from error's pain and human limits. I remember my true self, the Christ of God, forever in me. Fiat lux, let there be light. And there is light, first in my mind and heart, and then in my world. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness is no more. Lumen Christi, light of the world. I am. Fiat lux.
It was that silent night when the stars turned their gaze to marvel at the earth, when the heavens gathered breathless round a lowly stable, when a young mother wept tears of worship, falling on the baby in her arms, and the song of the earth arose in Bethlehem, soft as the tender beating of his heart. And all was calm, all was bright. Yet could this be the same God of Abraham, the conqueror of Israel? This baby, this fragile life? Is this child the one who burned his name in rapture across the gasping skies? Whose voice spoke the oceans into crashing rhythms, who crafted the mountains into guardians of the firmament, whose hand ignited the thirst of the deserts and the warring surge of the elemental hosts, who breathed life from dust, broke the oppressor's rule, scattered the chains of his people like sand, and led them through the wilderness with a pillar of flame? Is this child the one whose presence billowed thunderous on Sinai's peak? Who surrounded Job with the roaring wind, stood defiant in the raging furnace, wrote judgment against tyrants, and blazed on the lips of the prophets, scorching history's pages with the fury of his might? Could this be the same God who chose to come as the vulnerable king, setting his throne on straw and manger, drawing forth the tears of shepherds, receiving the gifts of wandering travelers, his fame unknown in this world? He is Jesus, the one who thunders through the heavens, yet whispers to our hearts, who reigns victorious, yet bows to serve the broken. He is God in the fury, God in the silence. He holds this mystery balanced in his hands, holds our questions till they lose their need, until all we see is him.
packs on and we wouldn't have the other stuff. Had the dimmer packs working or it wouldn't have come on. And it's that much screen say at some point. What is too soon?
Truly taught us to love one another. His law is love, and his gospel is peace. Chains shall he break, for the slave is our brother, and in his name all oppression shall cease. Sweet hymns of joy in grateful chorus raise we, let all within us praise his holy name. Christ is the Lord. Oh, praise his name forever. His power and glory evermore proclaim. His
Well, it's Christmas again. We've done this before, haven't we? The shopping, the eggnog, the parties, the presents, the eggnog. That was big in my family. They even made it with egg whites. Whipped the egg whites and then folded the eggnog into, Yeah. Of course, my aunt would also she would start, before Thanksgiving, and make all of these fruitcakes. I know there's only one fruitcake in the world, and we keep giving it to each other. But she'd make these fruitcakes. And then she'd pull out a bunch of tea towels. Remember those? Thin linen towels. And she'd soak them with rum. Wrap the fruitcakes in the tea towels, soaked in rum. Put them in a can, wrap them around the fruitcakes, put them in a tin, and stick them in her closet till Christmas. Periodically refreshing the rum on those. It was the merriest Christmas. I think of all the things as a child. Remember Santa Claus? How long has it been since you sat on Santa's lap? Do you remember the last time? I remember. Last time I sat on Santa's lap. It was at a Kresge 5 and dime. You remember those? Boy, you are old. He was kind of surprised when I walked up, and got up on his lap. Oh. I got high off of his breath. Well, ho, 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 little boy, what do you want for Christmas? And I said, a Corvette. That was the best Santa Claus in the world. Christmas came, and with it came a shiny red Corvette. It was this big. We had a little problem with size on that one. There were so many things about Christmas that as a child I dearly loved. But these are all the outer part of Christmas. Christmas from the outside. None of it touched the real Christmas, which is on the inside. When we spend Christmas dealing with it from the outside, seeing it from the outside, all the outer stuff, the lights and all that stuff, they're symbols, but they're supposed to touch some memory in ourselves. When we do that, when we awaken to that awareness that there's something more to us than just human, something happens. It's no longer Christmas from the outside. We find that Christmas has all of a sudden been placed inside us. And it's a real feeling. Not the joy because it's a really expensive present and it's exactly what you've been hoping for. In fact, you gave all kinds of hints so that that's what you got, hopefully, for Christmas. It makes a difference which way you approach Christmas, out here or in here. Even all the stories we tell about Jesus and the manger and all of that stuff, it's outside. The manger is here. The scripture I picked for tonight, you might think, wow, he did that last year. Yeah. Chris, would you put that up? Though Christ 1,000 times in Bethlehem be born, get that? Although it's born in somebody else, in another city, in another place, or in Raytown, if it's not born in thee, he says, thy soul is all forlorn. That means you're not going to experience the real joy of life as a child of God. Life as God individualized as you. Life as God's beloved. Life as you were created to be. I've got a picture of that manger. Interesting picture. It's Jesus on the water. Notice? Underneath the manger, you have a water effect. Manger. Out there, I used to see it in the creche scene that was just half a block from my house every Christmas. It was a life-size creche scene with real animals. Oh, I got friendly with a cow and a couple of sheep every year. It was so delightful to go over and just stand there and look and watch. And they played music over it. But that manger where I know it was a plaster baby, but there was something about it, something special. A few years ago, I made several trips to Albuquerque, and I would always go to the cathedral there. And I was at Albuquerque at Christmas time. They have a beautiful creche in the front of the church, beautiful setup, and there's the infant Jesus in the manger, and off on the side, I noticed something, and I did one of, those, sort of a double take, because there, next to the manger, were two chihuahuas. Little plaster chihuahuas. And I said to myself, what the is that? So I went out to the bookstore and the gift shop, and I asked one of the women in there, and she chuckled. She said, oh, the cathedral is home of the bishop. So she said, the bishop has two chihuahuas. And a few years ago, someone gave him the two figures of chihuahuas. And he just decided in the creche was a good place to put them. Altogether, I think that's a good idea. Absolutely. The creche is a symbol. Something came down into a child, into every child at the time of birth. Something divine, something wonderful. I have a little video that's kind of like that. Let's see what that looks like. The fire descending. The Jewish mystics speak about God as endless light. And they believe that God invested a spark of that light in each one of us. Well, there's the descent of that divine spirit into you and into me. Not at Christmas, except at your Christmas, at the time of your birth, at the time where you were created as God's beloved child. I sort of like that. I guess I could call all of you Sparky, because you have this spark in there, and we don't readily see it. To see it, we have to look, and we have to look with something besides our eyes. You may not see me, but I hope you'll see my candles. We have a lot of candles here tonight. That one over there, that burns all the time. And that's on purpose, because the light of Christ is everywhere. The light of God is throughout the universe. So the source of that light is God, as the source of all light is God. That's a reminder that no matter whether we recognize it or not, the Christ is everywhere present in everyone. When we have a service, we take light from there and we light what I call the Christ candle on the stage, which I lit tonight. That represents that light in us. When we are here, that one is lit. Tonight, we're going to take fire from that one and bring it to these 12 candles across the front of the stage. Some of you are quite familiar with the 12 powers, the 12 faculties within man. Different qualities through which the spirit of us, that divine spirit, the Christ, expresses. Faith, will, understanding, strength, love, elimination, and so forth. Those are inherent, so they're across the stage as potentials. But as we light that candle, a human being will bring it down here. Salt, and it is really salt. You could put this on your hamburgers. Remember, Jesus said you are the salt of the earth. Salt Salt water. There are those who believe life came out of the sea. The blood in our veins is like salt water. This represents life here in physicality. So those 12 faculties are in us here in physicality. Oh, what a journey the light makes. And 2,000 years ago, that light hit. There's a wonderful story of Jesus being baptized. Remember in the River Jordan by John the Baptist? We can all call him JTB. We know him well enough. Remember what happened as Jesus came out of the water. A dove descended, and there was the voice, "This is my beloved Son," or child, "in whom I am well pleased." That divine light implanted in a human being. Jesus said, "Let your light so shine." Well, I like his light. That's a pretty used up candle. It does have some gold on it, so it was handsome once. But still, because of the light, it's beautiful. And it's the same between Jesus and, let's make this one, well, after all I've said about it, I hate to say, let's make this one you, but the light is just as wonderful, is it not? What's the difference in the light between the two? None. And then there's this one. It's been around a long time here. It started off as a candle on the Advent wreath. Is it different? It's the same. Emmanuel, God with us. Emmanuel, God with us, God within us. Within us, everyone. All that stuff about Christmas, spending money, going in debt, having lots of parties, and everything else that goes with it, all the rush and the frustration in shopping. That's outside. But tonight, let this be your realization. The same Christ that is in Jesus is in me and you and everyone you know. That same Christ Spirit is within all of us to lift us up and allow us to live even greater lives because we realize the truth about ourselves. Look. Look with those eyes of spirit. Look in that mirror tomorrow morning. Maybe even tonight. Look for that spark. And remind yourself, the same Christ Spirit that is in Jesus is in me. This is the celebration of the awakening of the Christ in me. What a Christmas. This would be the most wonderful gift. Imagine if you could give this to everyone you know. But like the video that started the service, remember the box? It has to be opened. We have to look inside to see that gift. So this year, you look inside. You see the truth. This is my beloved child. You are God's beloved child, in whom God is well pleased. And that spark of divinity shines through you this Christmas.
Let us take a few moments in meditation. A few moments in meditation about the Christmas story. We know that story, don't we? It is depicted in every church, on street corners and stores and Christmas cards. Christmas carols sound everywhere. Jesus was born in a stable and placed in a manger. The light of God shone all around. Angels sang, and shepherds came in from the fields to the manger to see the child that the angels were singing about. This is what the writer of the Gospel of Luke said. But in Luke, there was no star. In Luke, there were no magi. Now, the writer of Matthew said that Jesus was born in a house. And the owners of the house must have been prosperous to have a house in that time. This was surely not the lonely manger in the Gospel of Luke. And a star led the Magi to the house, and they brought rich gifts for the child. Well, who is right? Which story is right? Could both stories be right? How can that be? A house represents the mind, the house of your consciousness. It is already rich with worldly things. And the birthplace of Jesus shows up in the intellect, the mind in this story. In this story, the Magi come from afar, and the star is way up there in the sky. For the mind, the intellect, spiritual understanding is still afar off. The Magi come from far away, step by step, night by night. And the star is still far away up there in the sky. The Magi bring gifts of prophecy, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. These are thoughts of riches, beauty, and the eternity of spirit. Just a glimmering of what is to come. But what about the manger? The light that shone all around. Angels who sang heavenly music. And the shepherds who were in the fields, who were lifted up and inspired to come and see this child. What about that? The writer of Luke was talking about the heart, the manger of your heart. In the heart there is not a distant star, but a great light that shone all around, singing and rejoicing. Shepherds, representing the very young thoughts that tend the gentle, innocent lambs of new life. Truly a story of the birth of Christ in you. It happens in the mind and in the heart. And we cannot choose one story or the other any more than we can just choose the mind or the heart. So we put them together to tell us that Christ is born in us. Christ is in our hearts and minds that we might know that Christ with our whole being. It comes from afar, like the Magi, as you follow your spiritual journey. And yet, it is a great light right here within you, right now. Christ is born in you. Your blessing of glory, joy, peace, all that is wonderful. The greatest gift of all. And let us just take a moment in the quiet, in the silence, to just be there in that great light that's already within you. The angels are singing. The Magi are coming. The shepherds are coming. And it all gathers into that place within us. And we celebrate the greatest gift of all. you are the Christ of God as you. Do you know that? Do you believe it? Will you live it? You are the Christ of God as you. Let your light shine. Shine out to everyone. God bless you. Amen.
And now you may remain seated as we join in singing the first Noel.
We have announcements. And they are supposed to be, there we go. There we go. Sunday morning, December 23rd, Reverend Greg Nettler. There's something about Christmas. And there will be food and fellowship after the service. And December 30th, Reverend Carol Lundy will be speaking. And the title of the lesson will be Doors and Gates. Sunday, January 6th, 2019, Burning Bowl service, Reverend Greg Nettler. And so you get to come and put down on a piece of paper all of those things you want to release from your life and see it go up in smoke. I did that once. There was a blizzard that Sunday morning, and very few people got to church to the burning bowl. And I had this big ceramic bowl, and it had foil in the bottom of it, and I put a candle in a little votive glass and put it in there so that when people began to burn these strips of paper, it would keep going. Well, since just a few people came to church, I decided next Sunday we'll do it again. So I set it all up again, except that I forgot to put the candle in the glass holder. Next thing I knew, with all those pieces of paper in there, the candle melted all over the bottom of the bowl, and I had this flame of fire going up from the burning bowl. And my tech guy was in the back with the fire extinguisher. I said, "Paul, we need the fire department." And he came running down the center aisle, ponytail flying, and poof, put out the fire. And all of the ash just kind of floated up and floated down. And somebody said, "Wow, that was really impressive to see your negative stuff go up like that." Next year, I put the burning bowl outside on the front porch. And this is our offering time. Our offering time and the offering blessing is divine love through me blesses and multiplies all the good I give and all the good I receive. There it is, so let's do it again. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all the good I give and all the good I receive. And we are so blessed and so rich in spirit, and we are so thankful. Amen. And we consecrate this offering. Consecrate it to creating a world that is the giving place that God meant it to be. We see it going out to take our hearts, our love, our blessing into the whole world. And we see that light of God shining all around. Thank you, God. Amen.
Seems like there's something I need. Oh, don't laugh. These are for people who couldn't be here tonight. I have to light them and put them down there. I haven't figured out how I'm carrying them, but is there anyone, I have to block the sun, is there anyone who does not have a candle? Okay. I think I saw somebody with 6 or 7. On the end is a blessing with a rubber band. Now, folks, this is the time. You want to do this now. Take the rubber band off. I don't care what you do with that. But the blessing, I like to believe that as you chose your candle, you chose your blessing. So that blessing is for you for this year. In a few moments, we're going to light them. Someone will go down the aisle and light the end candles and pass them along. And I ask you, good candle etiquette is if you're lighting, hold your candle straight up, and the other person can light from your lit candle. Lit candle straight up, and the other person lights this way. Otherwise, if this is the lit candle, I'm dumping the hot wax all over the person next to me. It might be fun for a time or two, but, you know. So, lit candle stays tall, and the other comes to it. Come to the flame. Oh, sounds very good. But remember, after you see that flame, and we sing Silent Night, and you're holding an image of that spark of divinity in you, remember, this is your Christmas. This is the Christmas of your life. This is about you. And that divinity that was implanted in you in the beginning. When you come forward and put it in the salt box, we'll take the Bobachets off. Lady at the supply store always used to call them Bobashes. Do you need Bobashes? Yeah. Hand it to the lady that's going to stand down there at the box with her hand out, because they burn real well in the salt box. So, it's almost time. We're almost ready to see the light of God in each one of us.
The first candle is lit for the disciple Peter, who represents faith. The disciple Peter, who represents faith. Christ in me. This candle is lit for Andrew, who represents strength. The Christ in me is directing my faculties. And the next candle is lit for James, son of Zebedee, who represents judgment. And this candle is lit for John, who represents love. The next candle is lit for Philip, who represents spiritual power. The next candle is for Bartholomew, who represents imagination. The next candle is lit for Thomas, who represents spiritual understanding. The next candle is lit for Matthew, who represents will. And this candle is lit for James, son of Alphaeus, who represents divine order. And the next candle is lit for Simon, the Canaanite, who represents zeal. And the next candle is for Thaddeus, who represents renunciation. And the last candle is for Judas, who represents generative life. At this time, let us join in singing Silent Night.
Silent night, holy night, all is
look upon the light that is your light. What a beautiful scene you have in front of you. What radiant light. And notice that every light is the same. It is that spark of the Creator that is implanted in you, has been implanted in you since the foundation of the universe. It is your light because thou art the Christ. And this year, you look not with eyes, not with sight, but with insight to see that really it's all about you. That's where the truth lies. And now, I have a video that I'd like to close this portion of the service with. And now, in benediction, may the Christ, whose disciple you are, show you the light you seek and grant you the strong aid of his compassion and wisdom. For there is a peace that passes all understanding. There is a power that makes all things new. May that peace uphold you, that power uplift you, till we follow his star to our first home where the light never fails. I salute you. I am your friend, and my love for you goes deep. There is nothing I can give you which you have not got. But there is much, very much, that while I cannot give it, you can take. No heaven can come to us unless our hearts find rest in today. Take heaven. No peace lies in the future, which is not hidden in this present little instant. Take peace. The gloom of the world is but a shadow. Behind it, yet within your grasp, is joy. And glory in the darkness, if we only look. And to see, we have only to look. I beseech you to look. Life is so generous a giver. And we, judging the gifts by their covering, cast them away as ugly or heavy or hard. Remove the covering, and you will find beneath it a living splendor, woven of love, by wisdom, with power. Welcome it, grasp it, and you touch the angel's hand that brings it to you. Everything we call a trial, a sorrow, or a duty, believe me, that angel's hand is there. And the wonder of an overshadowing presence. Our joys, too, be not content with them as joys. They, too, conceal diviner gifts. Life is so full of meaning and purpose, so full of beauty beneath its covering, that you will find earth but cloaks your heaven. Courage, then, to claim it. That is all. But courage you have. And the knowledge that we are pilgrims together, wending through unknown country home. And so at this Christmas time, I greet you. Not quite as the world sends greetings, but with profound esteem and with the prayer that you, now and forever, the day breaks and the shadows flee away. Merry Christmas. The Christmas of your life.